forces for progress. We're going to be bringing in the non-profit sector that are known for their agility and ability to scale solutions, but as well as universities who are the bedrock of cutting-edge research and innovation. So we believe that together these sectors can act as catalysts for disruptive technologies that not only address the technical challenges, but also reimagine infrastructure development, resource recovery, quite a lot. So to be part of this session this afternoon, we're going to have a keynote address from Mr. J. Bagwan. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to Uganda, but we shall be hearing from him. We have a video where he will be presenting. Mr. J. Bagwan is the Senior Research Manager at the Water Research Commission. When you talk about disrupting sanitation norms, his name always pops up. And he's very well known for off-grid and non-sewered sanitation. So, but to represent him here, we'll have a colleague from the Water Research Commission, Dr. Mamhudi, who is the head of partnership and business development at Water Research Commission. If you can please come up. Doctor, the name is very hard. Dr. We can stop there. Ma'am is also nice. So you're most welcome. And I should be able to answer any questions that arise from the video. Yeah, you can have a seat, just sit anywhere. Thank you. So in the panel discussion, we'll have a representative from Water for People. That's Brenda Achiro. Brenda is the country director for Water for People. Over 18 years experience in the wash sector. She's very passionate about the young professionals. She's been very busy with mentoring them. You're most welcome, Brenda. As well as when you talk about sanitation businesses, of course, Water for People comes up. Next is a representative from Addis Ababa University. Do we have Professor Getachew around? I know Professor has been very busy upstairs. Oh, Professor, you're most welcome. Professor has a PhD in water management, and he's mainly engaged in waste valorization that contributes to anything related to sustainable development and circular economy. Prof, you're most welcome. Next on the panel is a representative from AfWASA, Dr. Simeon, who is the Director of Programs and Professional Development at AfWASA. Behind almost all the professional development programs we know. AfWASA, you're most welcome. Last but not least, we have Assistant Professor, is that right? No. Professor Charles Nwagaba from Makerere University. Professor is very well known in the sector, over 24 years of experience. I remember when we had a program with the Water Research Commission, most of the very first sanitation professionals got an opportunity to be tutored by him. So you're most welcome to this session. Without wasting a lot of time, I would like us to go to our keynote that is going to be presented to us via video. IT? There's nothing. IT colleagues, could you please play the video? It was playing before lunch, so it should come on.
Good morning. My name is Jay Bhagwan from the South African Water Research Commission, and thank you for offering me the privilege to present this keynote. I want to respect everyone in the audience and say all protocols observed, and share with you, my understanding, thoughts, and expertise around how research is a key driver in technology and innovation advancements in the water and sanitation supply area. Now, we all sit in a situation in Africa constantly with threats around the water issue. In South Africa, it's a shortage issue, and the shortage is a combination of poor operation and maintenance that has been neglected over the years, but also in areas where the resource is reaching its limits, and we need to start planning for other aspects. But this is a big wedge of a problem and creates big wedge of challenges, because the water issue is kind of made extreme through the climate change issues. Okay, and the climate change is just the tip of the problem. I think when you add urbanization and the rate of urbanization in Africa, with climate change, it becomes a bigger challenge, a very big challenge. And then, you're always under this pressure of kind of this anxiety to meet the SDGs. But to do that, you're always struggling for funding, and you never have enough money to meet all those requirements. The result is that you end up having an external dependency for innovation, for research, for finance, for products, a lot of things. Okay, and this is the constant wedge of challenges that we face in Africa. However, I think we need to unpack it as a wedge of opportunity. Okay, because with all these challenges, research, innovation and development should be the response we have, to build this national self-sufficiency in terms of finding our own solutions and using our own solutions that creates economic growth, that creates manufacturing, that creates job, and then also builds an industry that offers us global competitive and partnership. And I'm going to share this because we lack this in Africa, and when you look at in terms of achieving the full innovation value chain of research, development, and innovation, from research to demonstration to industrialization, the opportunities are huge: job creation, poverty eradication, industrial development, prosperity in the nation, and, like I said, competitiveness. Now, when you look at the global picture, Africa is playing a role in water innovations, but not in a big way that it's taking a lot of these innovations to industrialization. And in South Africa, we considered to have the fifth highest innovations in water generated in the country. But a lot of it finds its way overseas and come back and sold to us. And we need to change those kind of narratives. And I'm going to share in this talk, rather than boring you, two case studies that I've come across. One is the Singapore story, and the other one is a South African story that might resonate with you. So when we talk about the Singapore story, people look at it from a water security around how Singapore closed the water loop, created all these taps to build water security. But was it really water security or an economic opportunity? Now, if where I sit, and I had the privilege of studying this, okay, Singapore used a challenge around water security, to create a huge industrial opportunity. Okay, and it started off by, driving this agenda through a water R&D platform. Okay, and it's very simple. They do a lot of R&D to respond to the challenges. They take those challenges, through research and strengthen the research domain through the universities, which they never had, that were very strong in research 15 years ago. And then they offer a whole lot of pilot studies to the partners, and then they take it into demonstration plants, and then they absorb it into their market. But that is not all what they do. What they've done over the 15 years is they've built a very robust innovations ecosystem and have become now the world's leader in terms of providing solutions, technologies, and turnkey services around water reuse and desalination in the world. Okay. The 300 million they invested at that time to build this ecosystem is now resulting in $30 billion annually in terms of contracts and revenue outside Singapore. And this little story and this design is how they've used research and innovation to create this industrial platform. And we, as South Africa, has been one of the contributors, or you could say the consequences, because we had, one of the leading manufacturers and innovators of microfiltration membranes in South Africa in the name of Gramtech. And they came over, bought Gramtech and all its shares, and relocated all the staff to Singapore. And they used that as a platform to build their own industry and economy. And today, like I said, they are the world leaders. They're exporting a lot of this technology, knowledge, and products. And many of the industries have now located themselves in Singapore to construct their businesses, etc. So this is a good example around how, on the left-hand side, you build a whole R&D platform through universities, through science councils, etc. And then you also create big partnerships with overseas, institutions, etc., to help you to transition that knowledge and build the cohort. But then you drive a whole lot of industry to the right to come to your country and set up the industry. And then you become the net, provider of this service. So today, Singapore, through its industrial partners, provides the technologies around water reuse and desalination. They have an operation and maintenance arm that now offer turnkey services. And Sembcorp, you might have heard, used to be Bywater, the British operation and maintenance outfit, which is global leader. They bought that off. And today they have a turnkey arrangement in providing. And this is the kind of disruption you see where research and innovation can lead to big industrial growth. Now, we in South Africa and Africa have a huge issue around sanitation. And I'm going to share my own story and the WRC story around innovation and disruption, in the sanitation space. Because, I kind of use the words of Nelson Mandela when people tell you it's impossible to solve the sanitation problem in Africa. And, it always seems impossible until it's done. And I use that as my mantra when I started working, towards this journey of disruption and innovation. Now, we all know in Africa and the developing world, we have inequalities in terms of sanitation provision and technology. And where we've come to is that where you are born and live determine the toilet you use. So when you see poor people, you give them a hole in the ground. And when you see rich people, you give them a waterborne sanitation system. And this inequity continues to perpetuate a society that's completely divided and unsettled. Now, the problem behind this is that sanitation technology has been our Achilles. Between the flush toilet and the waterborne system and the VIP, that's the on-site sanitation system, we don't have very good solutions in between to respond to the challenges. And whenever you get into this discourse and debate, it's the same thing like the oil age and the stone age. That when we invented oil, people got worried that we're not going to use stones, but we found other mechanisms and used the stones, etc. But the oil, took us to other levels of productivity and development. But we sit in Africa with this sanitation time bomb, pits filling up, not serviced properly, etc. And we've had our fair share of these challenges in South Africa, and as you see. And this spurned us because, when we tried to respond to the problem, emptying and disposal for on-site sanitation became a huge challenge. And I'm sure many in Africa face the same problems, etc. And that made us think about 10, 12 years ago around how we tackle this problem of sanitation, in South Africa and the world. And the WRC created a dedicated program called Sanity, bringing some sanity to sanitation. And the acronym means the Sanitation Transformation Initiative, okay? To bring these solutions in terms of fixing two markets, the current fecal sludge management market and the future non-sewage sanitation market. And those are the big decisions we made, that fecal sludge management was needed, but it was the interim solution. It wasn't the long-term solution. The long-term solution was coming up with non-sewage sanitation products, technology, and services that will solve the issues around fecal sludge management in terms of producing technologies that don't have to deal with sludge and transport and treatment and this. Everything with a vision that could be treated on site. And the sanity program was very inclusive in terms of how we tackled it. Okay, we looked at connecting it to the industrial pathway that ensured that we could manufacture all these products. We changed a lot of the policy environments. The white paper, getting political will, developing the industrial platform, industrial policy to accelerate sanitation industry, driving the sanitation wedge in the research development, the standards and regulations, and we were in the forefront in adopting the 3500 international standard, changing building regulations, bringing green building guidelines, and then the dedicated program of SASTEP, which I'm going to share a little while, and also positioning ourselves to build the next cohort of skills and what you would call competencies through the Sanitation Academy. So where we were trying to achieve and where we were trying to get to through this disruption and investing in R&D is to develop these new toilets of the future, which we call the re-engineered toilets, but also look at how we start deriving the value elements in human waste in terms of energy, water, nutrients, creating that connection and building a whole lot of sanitation business models, because we saw that in achieving these objectives through these platforms, you're going to create a new sanitation business environment or ecosystem that would allow you to transition into what we call a new municipal model around sanitation sensitive designing, where the municipality of the future is an enabler of all these three other quadrants, rather, the driver of this. So we pioneered a lot of solutions around FSM. As you all might be aware, lightweight VIP superstructures, suction, cleaning technologies, trenching of fecal sludge waste, etc., the protection elements, etc. And we got notice of some very prominent global leaders and advisors to see our vision we were on. And some of you might recognize some of them. And they understood the challenge we were facing in Africa. And, this is where they listened to us, and the vision of this non-sewage sanitation system was created. This aspirational solution of the future that did not divide. It brought about equitable sanitation for rich, the poor, because it was solving the same problem. Okay, but it was designed, with the intent that it minimize a whole lot of waste, pollution, capital costs, but also promoted the circular economy. And yes, Uncle Bill listened to us and launched the Reinvent the Toilet, which we were grateful for, because that brought a lot of attention and resources in terms of developing these solutions. On our side, from the RDI side, we initiated what we call the SASTEP program. And the SASTEP program was there to leverage this whole new sanitation technology platform. And it went through three different phases. First, taking the technology, demonstrating and seeing how they work in the field, then positioning it to get the industry organized to large-scale manufacturing. And we're in a part now where we're building the ecosystems for enterprises to start taking the industrial products and providing services, to many of the users, because it's now servicing a household and an industrial kind of platform. And in the pipeline, we've developed a lot of new innovations around, the front-end systems, around the front-end low-flush systems, urine diversion systems, on-site dry systems, incineration systems. Many processes is, dealing with fecal sludge treatment, that is on-site. Now, like I said, that over the 10 or 12 years we've been driving this research and innovation process, we've, shifted policy, we've shifted industry, we've adopted standards, we've now driving regulations, and we moving in the space to be the first adopter, and create a market that gives us competitive edge into the future. Okay, that's inclusive in terms of growth, that would transform our economy and capacitate society while bringing all the other things of water efficiency, resource recovery, and equity. And where we're heading to is this new toilet economy, all right, that's around the household in terms of products and services. It's around the circular economy, around the byproducts of human waste, and how we can harness that potential in terms of energy, in terms of nutrients, in terms of byproducts, etc. But also organizing ourselves for the smart sanitation economy, where with digitization and with 4IR, we can harness many other value-based products. So, a toilet could be measuring your glucose, could be measuring your fats and lipids, etc., to give you an indication daily how your health is progressing. So these are all the aspects we kind of working towards in this new toilet economy. Now you may ask, where have we come to? A lot of it, we have achieved a lot, against the challenges. We had a tipping point. We're now starting to see a lot of these technologies being adopted by government, the schooling departments, informal settlements, many cooperatives and farms. The housing schemes are beginning to see the value of it, and even private industry in terms of mining and big commercial manufacturing units are starting to adopt a lot of these solutions. And these are beginning to now transfer across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. And this gives you the kind of progress we are making. But, you know, the tipping point doesn't come without its challenges, you know, because as we take one step, we are still pushed back, you know, by this centralized management mentality, you know, because it's not about civil engineering, it's not about big infrastructure. And the ecosystem that we're trying to cross is working with this very, very rigid engineering core, okay, that do not want to shift in the value that this new disruption brings. And it's going to take some time, and hopefully once we get past that tipping point, the downhill drive is going to be simpler and easier. So just to close and tell you what we're seeing and why we're doing this as South Africa, and what we see as the big outcome. You know, this new economy that we're thinking about can create something like 32,000 to 33,000 jobs in South Africa. Okay, that is just dealing with the backlogs of the poor and the people that are not served. If we start looking at bringing, because these solutions have a huge opportunity on you know, the existing infrastructure, you know, the sewers, etc. We can also move them out over the medium term by retrofitting. You know, we can possibly create 2.4 million small business contracts to do that, and that translates to 25,000 new direct long-term jobs. And this is just a very conservative, because, you know, there's a whole lot of industry, manufacturing, operation and maintenance, etc., that would come out of this. So this is where we see that, you know, the new sanitation pathway, like the Singapore story for Africa, has this huge opportunity of stimulating an economy while we solve the problem of sanitation in Africa and bring equitable and better sanitation service to many in the continent. Thank you, and I hope that you know, this kind of resonates with you and would give you the kind of understanding of why research and innovation is important, and why investing 2% of the GDP in our countries is important towards R&D. Thank you very much again from the Water Research Commission. My name is Jay Bhagwan, and hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope, Dr. Mam, you can say thank you to Jay. Yeah, very insightful presentation. I think in the last session, somebody was asking, how much should we invest? And he ends up by telling us at least 2% of GDP should be invested in research and development. So over to our panel. I would like to start from here, starting with you, Professor Charles. We've seen, yeah, also reflecting on the presentation. I know we've seen universities, you know, participating in a good case study like in Singapore. So how are universities here in Uganda approaching research in disruptive technologies to support the achievement of SDG 6? Okay, you can put it maybe to Africa. Do you think we are up to the task?
Thank you very much, Kate. I was introduced as Charles Nwagaba, and I'm an associate professor of civil engineering at Makerere University. I've been working in this space for the last 24 years. What I can say here is that, as the word says, disruptive technologies, we really have to move beyond business as usual. You realize that we have 2030 to realize the SDGs, And the clock is ticking. We have only about 6 years to reach there. And we still have about 3.5 billion people out of the 8 billion people on the planet without access to safely managed sanitation. So as you can see, unless we do business unusual, unless we change the way in which we are doing things, we are unlikely to reach there. If I give the context of business as usual, for instance, trying to develop a large-scale wastewater treatment plants, as we have just here next our door, you will see a high-tech plant. Actually, I suggest if it is allowed, and you could visit a very high-tech plant, one of the best, perhaps in Eastern Africa. But if we were to go at the end and pick a sample and analyze it, you may be shocked that we are still sending nutrients in Lake Victoria, and they are still causing eutrophication. But we have arable land whose productivity, the fertility is reducing. So we have the nutrients in our bodies which we are discharging to actually cause problems in water bodies, and yet we can divert them and take them to grow food. So for me, I am really, for the last 20 years, I have been trying to work and towards contributing to finding these solutions. But one of the main disruptive things we must do is we must remove nitrogen from our wastewater systems because it is very difficult to remove. Perhaps on the African continent, it might only be South African plants that remove nitrogen. That's very, very high cost. And yet we need it. We have, and we are working towards developing simple technologies where we can tap our urine, dry it, and obtain nitrogen from there that you can apply in arable land. We are also working together with a lot of partners in different parts of the world, in the US and Switzerland, to develop technologies for tracing epidemics in wastewater and fecal sludge before they reach our communities to actually kill people. You might know that before the coronavirus started killing people, there's evidence that it was traced back in wastewater some 2 weeks before. So we are working with colleagues in the US and in Switzerland, and we are really very happy that National Water is supporting us, as well as the KCCM, to develop technologies in which we can trace epidemics or possibilities of disease outbreaks in wastewater and fecal sludge before they start to kill people, so that interventions can be developed. But I must say also, again relating to what Jay Bagwan said earlier, that I've been working in research in the last 24 years, but I don't think that I've worked on research funded by the government of Uganda or by anybody in Uganda. I work on research funded by funding agencies that are in Europe, that are in the US, and so on. It's very high time that we realize the need for this research, that we have people. By the way, if you look around here in this room and everywhere, we have people in Africa that have trained in Europe, in the US. They have trained with the same people that are developing this cutting-edge research in those countries. But when they come here, they can't develop them. It is not because they don't know how to develop them, but they are not supported to develop them. So if we continue to look for solutions elsewhere, of course we can get them, we can import them, but we will lag behind by some 30 to 50 years. Yet we can actually develop them alongside the same people, our colleagues in the US and in Europe and Japan, China and whatever, so that we can move together. If we don't do that, we shall continue trying to, to get some handouts from them and do something and continue lagging behind some 30, 50 years until we try to catch up with them. So I'm very happy that Jay Bagwan has brought up this issue here. I think we need to think and try to invest in sanitation and water research to be in position to solve our own problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chair. And I hope our leaders have heard the message. Yeah, I just want to go to Dr. Simeon. In Bali, I know together with the Water Research Commission, you did launch the Africa Hub for Innovative Solutions and Research. Could you please share a bit on the progress to date? What does the future look like?
Thanks, Kate, for the question. Yes, sorry. So thanks, Kate, for the question. And I'm Simeon Kenfak, the Director of Program at the African Water and Sanitation. And I realize I'm the only one who can speak in French at this panel. So I will suggest that you use, for those who cannot follow me in French, they use their headset so that I can at least balance the language at this panel. Merci beaucoup pour la question. Vous parlez du hub d'innovation, de technologie en eau et assainissement. Mais je vais déjà commencer par les propos que j'ai suivis au panel précédent, qui a été un panel représenté par nos membres, les membres de l'Association africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement. Et comme à ma position, nous travaillons pour les aider à résoudre les problèmes. J'ai noté le problème de changement de mentalité. Si nous ne changeons pas les mentalités et nous continuons en anglais on dit business as usual, si on continue à faire, à travailler comme d'habitude, il serait très difficile que nous rêvions même d'atteindre les objectifs du développement durable qui nous imposent, qui nous recommandent de donner de l'eau et de l'assainissement à tout le monde. J'ai écouté dans ce panel que certains hésitent à adopter les technologies, les technologies de rupture. Non, mais le sentiment partagé a été que nous devons les adopter. C'est la voie à suivre. Et le Maroc l'a dit clairement, si eux, ils n'avaient pas adopté, ils ne pouvaient pas survivre. Pourquoi? Parce que le défi des changements climatiques les impose. Et ces changements climatiques sont visibles, les effets sont visibles partout. Et c'est dans cette position, pour revenir maintenant à la question, que à l'Association africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement, nous nous sommes posé la question. Si c'est ça que nos membres nous demandent, comment est-ce que nous pouvons faire pour innover, pour les amener à adopter les nouvelles technologies, les technologies de rupture, à innover. Et c'est la première réflexion qui rejoint un peu celle d'un des panélistes précédents a été la collaboration. Nous avons regardé autour de nous, et particulièrement en Afrique. Je suis heureux d'avoir entendu Jay, qui est de Water Research Commission, présenter ce qu'ils ont fait. Et à ce panel, Mme Loding, qui est sa collaboratrice, pourra par la suite nous en parler. Nous avons identifié Water Research Commission d'Afrique du Sud, avec qui l'association a signé un mémorandum d'entente. Et pour faire quoi? Pour mettre en place en Afrique un hub de tests d'innovation technologique. Je voulais présenter l'image de la signature, de lancement de ce hub-là, qui a eu lieu au mois de mai dernier, lors du Conseil mondial de l'eau, c'était le 23 mai 2024, à Bali, nous avons lancé avec d'autres partenaires ce hub pour les innovations, pour tester les innovations technologiques en Afrique. Et les objectifs de ce test, de ce hub, c'est de quoi? Ils sont de 4. Le premier, c'est d'identifier les besoins en innovation dont nous avons besoin en fonction de nos défis. Nous allons identifier, que ce soit ici en Afrique ou partout ailleurs, toute solution que nous pensons que ça peut nous aider à régler nos problèmes. Nous allons d'abord les prendre et les tester dans ces hubs. Mais j'ai parlé de Water Research Commission qui est à Durban, qui est à Johannesburg, et vous savez que le siège de l'Association africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement est en Côte d'Ivoire. Est-ce que c'est suffisant pour couvrir toute l'Afrique? Nous avons dit non. Et c'est l'occasion pour nous de penser en deuxième objectif spécifique, d'établir des hubs régionaux de tests de ces technologies. Donc, nous allons avoir un point de coordination, mais nous allons faire des partenariats dans les régions, dans les universités éventuellement, ou bien les centres de recherche qui existent déjà, et installer dans ces pays-là, dans ces institutions, des plateformes de tests à l'échelle régionale. Et la suite, c'est la promotion pour l'adoption de celles de ces technologies que nous pensons efficaces, utiles pour la région. Et le dernier objectif stratégique, le quatrième, c'est de promouvoir la culture de l'innovation. Nous ne devrons pas toujours continuer les affaires, notre travail comme d'habitude. On doit chercher à innover et continuellement innover. Ce n'est qu'à ce prix-là que la performance peut être garantie dans nos sociétés. Et donc, ça c'est ce que nous avons comme objectif. Et nous saisissons l'occasion de ce CST, déjà, tel que vous voyez. Le thème est étroitement lié à cette idée que nous avons eue au mois de mai, et nous sommes en novembre. Dans les jours et les mois à venir, nous allons continuer à identifier les technologies. Il y en a qui ont été déjà évoquées dans cette salle, comme les compteurs prépayés, les compteurs intelligents, les technologies d'assainissement innovants. Mais nous allons continuer à les identifier et nous allons lancer dans les prochains jours l'appel pour abriter ces hubs régionaux pour les tests d'innovation technologique. Je m'arrête à ce niveau. Merci.
Thank you, Dr. Simeon. And yeah, great opportunities there for the whole region, for the whole of Africa. Going to Brenda, also reflecting on Jay's presentation, but what is Water for People's approach to fostering innovation in the wash sector?
Thank you very much, Kate. Again, my name is Brenda Achero Mulemba, and I'm the Country Director, Water for People in Uganda. Water for People is an international NGO that has been in operation in Uganda for over 15 years now, but I've been in the wash sector for over 18 years. And yeah, I'm happy to add to the conversation around, our approach as an organization in fostering innovation. And I must say, when I had, during the opening remarks in the morning, the the managing director of National Water talking about focus towards sanitation by AfWASA. That excited me. I think a lot has to be done in the direction of sanitation, and most of the experiences I'll share about is in line with the sanitation subsector. Water for people, we look at the entire sanitation value chain, right from capture to reuse. And one of our underpinning approaches is human-centered designing when it gets to the technologies, because we want to respond to the challenges of the people. So human-centered designing for capture technologies, for pit emptying technologies, up to reuse. I'll give an example. For capture, if you're working in the poor settlements or the unplanned settlements where people are predominantly, poor and cannot afford, you have to look at the affordability aspect. And now conversations are happening in the direction of climate resilience. So you need innovation to create a balance between, one, cost effectiveness and affordability, cost effectiveness or affordability, and climate resilience. So we all know that a technology has to be durable for it to be able to stand shocks of the climate or extreme weather conditions. And that will come at a cost because you want it to be more durable. So as an organization, we work very closely with the people. I'll give an example of a project we implemented together with Kampala Capital City Authority here in Kampala, where the engineers would sit down, with the landlords, draw up bills of quantities and tell them, this is what you need. Because you need technologies that are durable. It will come at a cost. You might get into conversations of, I can provide this as a landlord, and then maybe I'll provide the sand, and then I'll buy probably the cement in kilograms, but getting into such conversations so that they appreciate that, one, they need to invest in a durable technology, but also you have to bring in aspects of probably a bit of financing support. And so we work with some financing institutions where we designed loan facilities, or we designed a subsidy model as well, because you want the people to be able to construct a durable toilet facility, but if the cost is beyond what they can afford, then you have to come in with innovative financing. I must say, as we are talking about innovation in technology, we should also look at this system or the economy. I think Jay mentioned the sanitation economy or the toilet economy. You have to look at system strengthening beyond just the toilet, beyond just brick and mortar, beyond pipes and bolts. You have to look at an enabling environment. You have to look at the market. How can you engage the private sector? How can you engage financing institutions and make sure that the different value chain actors come in play? So that's human-centered designing. The second thing we look at is, of course, the market systems development that I've talked about. The technology will only thrive where there is market. So you have to look beyond the technology, invest in market systems development. The technology should be able to survive where the forces of demand and supply are at play. So as an organization, we look at that entire economy or that entire cycle. The technology, yes, but then we also get into strengthening the sanitation economy, strengthening the toilet economy. We look at that entire cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, for your insights. I would like to, Ma'am, do you want to say something? I know colleagues have said something about the video, but do you want to add something to that?
Yes, so I think we had a lot to say as the Water Research Commission, and I'm happy that everybody's quoting what Jay said as you are reflecting. Maybe just to re-emphasize on 4 elements: the issue of relevance, ownership, collaboration, and funding. Let's start with the funding. Professor mentioned there that most of the projects are not funded in Africa or by African funders and investors. Why? Are we saying it's not important, all these things that we are talking about here today? Because from the morning, what I've been hearing is we are all saying, let's work together to really give back people the dignity in the African continent. Our ministers in the Ngo commitment have declared or committed to getting rid of open defecation, for example. But when we're saying ministers put money on the table to fund us, the knowledge workers, the innovators, to put these solutions and turn this thing around, the money is not coming. What does it mean? So that's a question to the policymakers in this room. The issue of relevance, Ajay has mentioned, not everybody should have flushing toilets. But we, as Africans, we know our environment, different environments, and there's lots of knowledge and solutions already existing. And with this hub that Simeon has spoken about, the aim is to really say, let's gather what is in our continent. And then we're then going to go and check the needs, match them with the existing solution, and try to really make sure that we get rid of this thing of not access to water and sanitation. The ownership is really to say, we as Africans, if we really believe that water is life, sanitation is dignity, can we please own up to it? Can we please own up to it? Because we also have the issue of saying funders come in here with their money, they tell us, they dictate what they want us to do. Of course they will dictate, because you don't own your thing, you don't show leadership, you don't show how important this thing is. So it's about time that as Africans we stop just talking and wanting to leverage resources outside this continent, and even the knowledge, by the way, because we have more than what we need actually in our continent. But let's rather own up to it, invest where our mouths are, then we will be able to see the progress. If we continue wanting to ask for assistance, we will never go anywhere with that. I think collaboration was also mentioned, is very key. With the hub idea, we are really saying let's work together, whether you are a funder, a policy maker, a regulator, an innovator, a researcher, please work with us with the AfWASA Water Innovations Hub to make sure that we share what we are having, but most importantly, we roll them out in our continent so that we see the impact on the ground. I think, let me stop then. The most important thing, don't forget the communities that you're working in. They are not waiting for us to bring things that are not relevant for them. As we create these solutions, we bring them from the beginning on board, so that even when we are done, there will be ownership, there won't be vandalism, for example. They will really appreciate if we start with them from the beginning. Let me stop there for now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, yeah, for those additions. And last but not least, Prof, what role has research played in advancing innovation and research in your institution? If so, what was your experience? What was its impact, and how did you measure it?
Thank you so much. You can call me doctor. I'm still a young doctor. I'm not there, yeah. So the question is, what role? I think, like we know mostly, this research and innovation are coming mostly from the West, so we kind of mostly struggle, to adapt it into contexts. But research has several roles, for sure. I mean, even in our context where I work in, graduate students, mostly it is done by graduate students, and we are developing like useful materials out of waste, which is called waste valorization. So you can begin from the use of the water, like we call wastewater, but it's 99 something water. So we reuse water, especially this time we're applying it to non-conventional municipal use. Also, we are producing biogas and soil nutrient. In fact, not that at a scale, but in the university where I work in, a certain group is developing plastic material out of the larva of this black soldier fly, where this fecal matter is fed into. And yeah, that needs further study, of course. Because we have regional programs, we have vibrant students across Africa. Of course, another team of research has simplified the use of fertilizer out of urine. So, you know, the team is excited and feeling good that it's going to, you know, collect urine in the capital. So it's going to be like a resource afterwards. Several other materials are being developed. Of course, not just in sanitation, but also in water. Mostly we have this natural contamination in water, especially around the Rift Valley region where fluoride is excess in groundwater. So we're using local materials to remove fluoride. And that has, in fact, impacted several communities in accessing, you know, potable water. But the sanitation is not like at a scale now. It's in process, so for me it's difficult at this point to speak about the impact. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Doctor, you said doctor instead of prof. Okay, thank you so much. Our panelists, I would like to open this up for any questions or comments from the audience. And you can direct any of the questions to the panelists. We'll allow maybe three or four questions. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can use the mic. You can introduce yourself first. We have one there, 2, 3.
Merci beaucoup de m'avoir donné la parole. Je pense que ce n'est pas la peine de me présenter à nouveau. C'est Dr Meimunolo et je pense que le thème de cette 94e session m'interpelle en tant que chercheur et aussi en tant que consultant qui exerce dans le milieu privé. Donc ma question est la suivante. Au niveau de l'université, on a eu à encadrer des étudiants dans le cadre de leurs travaux de master et ils se sont montrés vraiment optimistes et convaincants. Mais au moment de partager ou de disséminer les résultats de leurs recherches, ils sont confrontés à beaucoup de problèmes, tels que des revues scientifiques qui sont typiquement axées aux services d'eau et assainissement. Le plus souvent, on est obligé de se rabattre au niveau de certaines revues qui parlent plus ou moins de l'environnement, ou bien si on est à cheval entre l'assainissement avec la valorisation des boues de vidange et l'agriculture, on est plus ou moins tenté à converger vers les revues scientifiques typiquement agricoles. Donc, est-ce que dans ce sens-là, vous avez eu à penser à mettre sur pied une revue scientifique dans ce sens-là? Merci beaucoup.
Thank you for the question. Let's get all the questions. You can use that too. That you can.
Yeah. The one question is, when talking about this dry sanitation, the rest water consumption of the household, the supply, and then some sort of collection or treatment, how is it meant to be solved? That's the one question. And the other thing is, I would remember all of us, because we were talking in this session again about affordability. We ended the previous session with the statement that how can we or how can anybody talk about affordability if mobile services, telecommunication services are paid. In Kigali last year, we had a presentation from South Africa, from favelas, non-unofficial settlements, not having water, not having anything, but, and then at the end of the presentation, the question was, do they have mobile phones? Yes, without exception, everyone. So, first question, what about those 20, 30, 40 other liters of water consumption and polluted or used water in the household, and why not to change the mindset of people about concerning affordability?
Continue.
Yeah, thank you. I think from the morning, I've been listening in, and my only contribution is, even as you are thinking about innovation, research, technology, how are we considering the gender aspects? Because I know in a lot of innovation, we leave out the women, and we come up with solutions, and at the end of the day, it's not workable because they were not involved. We are saying that involve community. Are we also going to target women? Do we have, because we know when it comes to technology, most of the time, women are not seen as designers, but they can make inputs, great inputs to make sure that the technology really becomes resilient and is, they are the end users. So how are we going to also consider bringing women on board? Even in our research, are we contacting women to make inputs into designs for innovation and other things? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we can have the last one from you.
Thank you. I wanted to ask if any of the panelists could answer this. How much of the adaptation fund are we getting diverted to water and sanitation? And how are we using this to build capacity? Because most of the problems we have in water and sanitation can be solved through locally led solutions. Are we getting some money from the adaptation fund, the climate adaptation fund, and how are we using it in our different countries to build capacity in solving water and sanitation related problems locally? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Fidel, eh? Okay.
Okay, thank you. My question goes to Director of Water for People, Brenda. I wish to know how Water for People is promoting sanitation as business so that it can contribute to the circular economy. I know there are initiatives in different country programs. There are many initiatives related to the circular economy, sanitation as business. As we wish to make like sanitation as to come into industrialization, valorization, we have to make a business, to make money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anesta, you want to start? Okay, please go ahead. And maybe you state the question you're answering. That you can let the audience know which one you are going to answer.
Okay. Thanks for the questions. As one of the questions was raising the issues of gender, one of the questions was raising the issues of gender consideration in the research, and I'm happy to sit in a panel which is well gendered and talking of this disruptive. Yeah, it's somehow balanced because there is no half person. So I want to answer on this, and also these issues of publication for the young students, and that of capacity building as the business development manager directors at AfWASA. So these three questions were basically raised by women, and I'm happy and comfortable to answer this because as AfWASA, we are an organization, gender consideration. And with this, the students, your students who need, we have, I will just say that we are part of capacity build. Our mandate is capacity building as AfWASA, and we basically use three pillars. One of the pillars is the event organizations, and we are putting together people here to learn, to share from the experience, from the best practice, or from the failure also of one another. The second is, as we talk of, I early talk of the innovation hub. This innovation hub is considered as a project that we will implement, we will raise funds to implement, and considering the challenge the utilities or the operators are facing we consider this challenge to design projects and we implement. And the third pillar is training and research. And in the training and research chapter, we raise funds to offer scholarship to students. And I think Madame who raised the question, she maybe one of her students has already benefited of one of these grants that we offer, we provide to this for them to implement, to conduct their research projects. Once the research project is completed, of course, you need to publish, and your publication are of two values, but I know that most of the time the academic, you use the research, you publish just to upgrade from one position to another, but we have as the operators or the water sector stakeholders, we want the research product for people to learn of, or to uptake the product of research and implement. And as AfWASA, we have a number of way of publicizing. Yes, the Congress is coming in February, and we launch a call for publication for presenters. And you may send your, or your students may apply, and once they are approved, they will present, and at the end, we will produce the proceedings of our conference, and they can share from there. And that is also a way of win-win, academy and professional. Secondly, we have an internal scientific journal, which is Share Water. And they can also submit their paper there. Of course, for now, the paper is not yet well recognized, but the most they will publish in that journal, and the best will be the quality of this publication, then we could call for, we could promote and for recognition of the journal, and they will. And another way is also that, yes, as you are a members of AfWASA, the organization is working to where how better satisfy, cover the needs of its member. And we can also work on how to promote this research. And in this room, all those who benefit of this publication, of that grant, Young Water Professional Grant, one of the staff is in this room. Jalia? Yeah. Jalia is the Young Water Professional Officer who is in charge, and she also convened, she has created one of the webinar series where these young water professionals, these grantees, they are presenting their work, and it is a way, and I take the opportunity of this venue to convene people to follow the activities of the association and then make best use of what is published there and best use of what is coming, the upcoming, and also the opportunities that the association offers. Having said this, I can just add that for the lady, for Madam Dr. Leticia, the gender specialist of AfWASA, this research that the professor was talking earlier, these grantees, we make sure that the ladies are also, young girls are also benefiting of this grant. And unless, I used to hear that one cannot love someone, even if it's your husband, better than yourself. So they will work on their own research based on their challenge, and that is how the association will be the most inclusive as we can imagine. And yes, what we are doing, or even if, and for the last question on the adaptation funds, even if we have not directly target adaptation climate funds, we know it's an opportunity, and by restructuring the STC, we have a climate specialist group who are definitely those who will be working on how better we can tap on this opportunity, funding opportunity, to do our work to better serve the communities of stakeholders in the continent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. You've answered quite a number of them. But I wanted Dr. Charles to add something on that. Because what can the students do? They have very good research. It can be disseminated, but I'm imagining, how does it reach that utility? How does it reach some of the decision makers?
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to touch on the 3 questions with that one inclusive, and I can go through very fast.
Okay, briefly, maybe if you can do 2.
Yeah, so considering gender, like I said, I'm involved in valorizing urine so that we stop sending nitrogen in wastewater treatment plants, which is difficult to remove. And I found that it's very easy to get male urine. Just making small modifications in male urinals is very easy. For female, it's a bit difficult unless you have urine diversion toilets, which we know also have their own problems. Actually, I have engaged some women at Makerere University to find out whether it is possible for us to design a female-only urinal, so that the female also, they have a toilet, but if they are just going to urinate, is it possible that you can define that if they are just going to urinate, they go to one cubicle, and then if they are going to use both or whatever, then they use another, so that you can get neat urine from female that you can easily also recycle. So that's work in progress, and we are discussing with women to see if it is possible to do that. The other thing is about, I think, sorry, I didn't get your name, about a community that was found to have mobile phones, but then they are saying they cannot afford toilets. Several years ago, when a mobile phone was very expensive, many people, including me, did not have it. When a mobile phone was $1,000, there are very few people that afforded it. Right now, we can buy phones of $10, $8, we get a phone. And with a tenth of a dollar, you can load the airtime and call a friend. So what we need to do is to continue disrupting technologies, to come up with a toilet as cheap as possible, or if we can't get it as cheap as possible, but I can go to the nearest toilet and use it for maybe hundreds of a dollar. That I can tell you that if we can lower the costs, it will be possible. If these mobile phones were still very costly, most of us, including me, will not be having them. Then to the dry sanitation, I think you also talked about that. If you have dry toilets, how do we handle the products? I think that the dry toilets refers to, I can look at it as sanitation without water, whereby even a pit latrine is a dry toilet. And, or if we want to talk about dry urine diversion toilets, or even container-based sanitation. I think that in Kampala here for us, we are very lucky that most of the wastewater treatment plants, apart from the one here, are actually hybrid. So everything that's being designed is to be hybrid, so that you can have sewage coming in, but then you allow for fecal sludge delivered by trucks and cesspool vehicles. So for that which is pumpable from a pit latrine septic tank, we have possibility. Our treatment plants allow that. And then for anyone who is designing, let's say, container-based sanitation, I know, by the way, there's people here who do container-based sanitation in Kamwacha, and there you provide the whole chain. So from a capture, a collection, and then you must have a unit where you treat it. There are guys actually, they are doing amazing work here, and maybe there are other places, but the ones I know are in Kamwacha, and they are doing quite well. So regarding now the question you put to me about students and involving them in research, by the way, I can tell you that, let's say at Makerere, every year we have about 80 students in 4th year, the class that I teach, doing research. And these are young, energetic, male and female, that can do research that can contribute to supporting the organization. So what we do now is, even as I entered this building, I met 2 of my students here coming to consult some people here in National Water and Sewage Corporation about their research. So we can continue to develop it further so that we don't just do research for the sake, but then we engage our stakeholders so that the research we are doing is contributing towards a problem that is in industry that can be supported. Of course, we get some challenges that sometimes a research that will be of a higher quality that could lead to some product that can help industry might be a little bit costly, and then it comes in issues with the funding and so on. So if industry can define some research questions that are of their interest, we can work with them and students to identify some small funding that they can put in place so that we can actually answer their questions at no consultancy fee. We can use students just supporting them in data collection, data analysis, and so on. and we can do research that can help both the student to graduate, but also the industry to solve their problem. Thank you very much.
We'll continue with Brenda. You had a question?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take two, just add to the conversation on affordability, then I'll take that was specifically directed to me. Just to add to what Dr. said, in terms of affordability, innovation has been done in that regard. We do have offset pits that were innovated, moving away from the very deep pits that our parents used to dig to take them a decade, of use. You just have to make an offset pit, which is oftenly emptied and reused. So that is cheap. We're talking about cost effectiveness. You probably can get to about $200 US, thereabout. And then there are alternating pits. These are composting ones where you alternate. For those who know the force alterna, you alternate its use. So a bit of innovation has been done around about affordability, and we probably will get there. We know the generations the mobile phone has taken. First, just to be expensive, then they removed service fee. It's now a lot cheaper. So innovation is happening in that direction, and I think we should be able to get to maybe $100 for a stance or a 2 stance. I will take the question that was specifically directed to me in terms of our sanitation as a business. Yes, as an organization, again, we look at creating businesses along the entire value chain. From capture, I've talked about the toilet types, where we work with private sector to be able to construct some of those toilets and make them available to the people. In addition to innovating, we normally work around business models for them to appreciate that they can actually offer a sanitation service or product as a business. How do you grow the numbers? When you come to pit emptying, some of you may have already known Water for People is were the ones who first innovated a semi-mechanical pit emptying device called the Galpa. I know right now we are talking about the Popo pump, but we boast of over 25 companies registered that are currently offering pit emptying services in places where the cesspool truck cannot reach. And they're offering that service, and they're going beyond Kampala. They've opened up in other big cities like Fort Portal. They're in Mukono, they're in Masaka. Making business for the young people. Reuse, we spent quite a bit of time to crack the business around fecal sludge briquettes. And again, I would like to thank National Water here that was able to give us space, land, but also access to the sludge at the treatment plant in Lubiji to be able to produce fecal sludge briquettes. Right now, there is I would call it a small to medium enterprise right now that is producing fecal sludge briquettes and is in the market. He's able to sell and at least cover his operational costs. So Water for People is a facilitator of the process. We do incubate, but we also support them to get into scale, to get into the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Yes.
Yeah, the colleagues have spoken most of the thing. I'm just looking at Doc there. We answered both your elements of your question. I think it had 2 elements, wastewater treatment. I think you said something about communities. I didn't get it. That's the only thing that was not answered. Households, you're fine. Okay, maybe then I could just add on the issue of the gender, because we love a balance, eh? So maybe just to share with you from the WRC perspective, in every project that we do, especially those, for example, where we're trying to provide solution to rural communities that are not normally serviced by our municipalities, we start with the women. Actually, most of the NGOs that we work with and the projects that we implement with communities, the community rep will be a lady, because you know that women are the managers of the households. We know best, not only for sanitation, but also for drinking water, because they are the ones who understand the pain and everything that they need to go through to get the waters for their households. So for us, gender is very important, not only for projects implementation, but in all the projects that the WRC funds, actually. There must be students in them, number one, and there has to be female students in them. So we take it very serious as the Water Research Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, any in the restaurants?
I mean, to begin from Dr. Letsha's point, I mean, several agricultural professors, and they were worried about making the potato resistant to parasites. And they were all male professors. And they were like improving on the strings after it is strings, improving. And they finally made it like impossible for the parasites to attack the potato. But the thing was later realized that it cannot be boiled. So, we Africans really, we just feed on what women cook, right? So they didn't think of that. So it was a resistance for boiling. And then they joked like, had there been a woman professor among you, it would have been considered, So you see, involving them will obviously contribute to dimensions. Obviously, that's, and even they are good at methodology, in my experience even. So in not just seeking dimensions from them, but also women have to, contribute their role, like as a responsibility as well. So like in a place where I work, research grants are there, partly exclusive for women research group, just to encourage. But at least the principal investigator has to be a woman, in that team. So these contributions are there. This brother asked about cell phone versus toilet, right? That one is also, taking my attention. The thing is, we need to study on what drives this difference. By this I mean, like, when you come to cell phone, it's more a private gadget, but toilet is shared, right? At least in a family. And I don't know, or is it because people do give value to, technology over this thing, sanitation, and so on. Like why people smoke, where they can buy, for example, something with it. So it depends on like the value we prefer to have, and also is it private or something shared. So we need to study on the drivers, but that is a very interesting fact. Even it is an issue where I came from, like around 60-something% of the population has cell phone, but the sanitation coverage is down there, below 20. So I think it needs really more identifying the variables behind them, yeah? So that we can find some point to intervene.
Okay, thank you so much. I was going to summarize, but in the interest of time, let's give a big clap to our panelists today. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and thoughts on this particular topic. If we can have just a group photo, and then we give a chance to the next panel.
Okay, group photo. For our panelists, please smile a bit. Just a small compliment to Dr. Kemfak. When I saw him from far, I thought the governor of Nigeria had come to me. That is very nice attire, Dr. Kemfak. That is very nice attire. That was on a lighter note. Now, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our time is up. And we have only one last session, which is very, very important. And that is a high-level panel discussion on governance and financing technology and innovations. And our moderator is Dr. Mamohloding Tihagale. Sorry for biting my tongue. So Dr. Tihagale, please prepare to come to the podium. And while she's preparing to come to the podium, this is on financing, and I'm sure we have quite a number of CEOs, utility managers that are interested in understanding and getting a good feel of a cocktail of financing that is available out there. While we prepare for the last session, allow me to make a few announcements. There is a bit of amendment of the program tomorrow. So please, our foreign delegates, foreign guests, please note that we have prepared a dinner for you, a sumptuous dinner. Bon dîner. And please take this into note. We are going to finish tomorrow at 4:30, and between 4:40 and 5,
minutes for the panel, and then we'll have 10 minutes for reflections from the floor and question and answers. I'm Mamu Claudine Tlhagale. I forgot to introduce myself actually when I was sitting there, and I said, oh, everybody's saying who they are, where they're from. So I'm from the Water Research Commission in South Africa, and I head the Partnerships and Business Development Division of the Water Research Commission. If you want to work with us, this is the girl to talk to. Anything, whatever the Water Research Commission is doing. And we are a government entity funding water research and innovation in the country to ensure that we really achieve this thing of access to clean drinking water and sanitation for all. So I am now going to be calling my speakers, and you will forgive me because we were doing the last change, as you have seen, while after I moved from the stage. So I hope all of these ones are still around. And due to the interest of time, I'm just going to be mentioning their names and the institutions they are from. We're not going to be reading the bios because we are now all tired and need to wrap this up. So our first panelist is going to be Mr. Godfrey Singendo, who represents the African Development Bank. So please just come forward and grab a seat. The second speaker is going to be Mr. Batia Wanke Wake, who is the MD for TDE Togo. Our third speaker is going to be Dr. Sylvia Alinaitwe, the Deputy Managing Director, Finance and Corporate Strategy of NWSC. Then we have Ms. Kate Kiza, who is the CFO, Executive Director for DFCU Uganda. And then we have second last one, I hope we have enough chairs, who is Ms. Joanne Asimwe from AfWASA. And lastly, we have Dr. Kadi Kovacs, who is a member of the STC. So as they are taking their seat, and we welcome them with a round of applause to give them some energy, I will just like to just touch on some of the key points that kept on coming throughout the day. And it's very good that I see a nice synergy in all the conversations that we've been having throughout the day. So firstly, I just want to mention 5 things so that also themselves, as they respond and engage. Okay. So that as they engage, they then are able to remember these key points that we have been picking up throughout the day. I forgot to time. So the first thing is the water sector. It's a rapidly evolving sector with lots of challenges, be it climate change, extreme weather events, issues of governance, economics, growing populations where we're not supposed to provide or we're not able to provide the services required. Issue number 2 is apparently, the banks will be talking to us, apparently the water sector struggles to secure funding than other sectors. We will hear what are the reasons for that. The third thing I want us to keep in mind is that that we know that we are not doing very well as the African continent with regards to SDG 6, even the Ngo commitment of killing this open defecation thing. So we are not doing well. And we also know that, as we've been hearing even today, technology and innovation can help fast track and also accelerate us at least going closer to the target. Obviously, we will not meet, we're only left with 6 years, but there can be a lot of progress that we can achieve if we really adopt technology and innovation. There have been mentions of the fear of technologies and things like that, but also we've seen on Jay's keynote, plus also some of the panelists, that there is already existing solutions in the African continent, like I've mentioned. Yes, collaboration is important even outside the continent, international collaboration, because you don't want to repeat things that have been done and so forth. But solutions are there, and we know that we need it to be able to improve our service delivery. And the last one I want us to really emphasize on is the fact that funding is important, whether we like it or not. We will not be able to implement tech and innovation without funding. Also, funding is important to build capacities where it's due for us to be able to build this culture of innovation and mindset so that we are able to improve things. So now I want us to keep these issues in mind, because as they were coming, I was seeing my question. I'm like, I wonder how the panelists will respond to this question. So as a start, I would like each one of the panelists to just have 2 minutes max, please, 2 minutes maximum, to answer these questions that I will be asking you. So let's start with the banks. If we look at the DFCU Bank, maybe we start with you. What are the programs, innovative programs especially, that the banks are having to support tech and innovation uptake in the African continent? 2 minutes to just share with us some of your programs that you believe are working in the continent to try and support tech and innovation uptake in the water sector. Thank you. Oh, he's not here. Okay. So who's representing the bank? No? Guys. Okay, no, you have your question. I'm coming to you. Okay, it's fine. So let's go to the African Development Bank. Maybe just then combine these 2 questions. What is the bank having as programs to support tech and innovation in Africa, but also share with us a bit on the banks, this African Development Bank, your policy direction on supporting the water agenda, but focusing on tech and innovation. As I'm saying, you can then combine them. So what is your strategy? What is your policy direction as African Development Bank to support the water agenda, tech and innovation in the continent? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Godfrey Sengendo, representing the African Development Bank. The African Development Bank is guided, of course, by a long-term strategy called a 10-year strategy, running from 2024 to 2033. But then it's also guided in terms of the water sector. It has a policy that guides actually the thought process and interventions in the water and sanitation sector, which policy is being currently implemented with a 5-year strategy that actually ends next year. But that strategy actually guides the operations and thought process that goes into implementing the different interventions. And that strategy has 4 strategic pillars. One being the promotion and advancement of integrated sustainable water resource management. Then, of course, it has another pillar that looks strictly at WASH, or what would pretty much fall under what the program of this particular meeting is about. But then it also looks at the pillar of advocating and pushing forward water for food and nutritional security, and then water for energy. If I can just give a very broad context, of course, the bank, at the bank level, it's recognized that there's a very big financing gap when you talk about the water and sanitation sector. If I can just give a very small number in terms of reference, you have about a financing gap for developing of water and sanitation of about 45 to 50 billion per year. That is the gap. And currently, of course, most of the financing has been being sourced from public. It has mainly been public financing. And as you're aware, of course, the bank finances mainly, it has different avenues of financing, one being through concessional financing, but also non-concessional or loans and blended finance through very many instruments of financing. So in terms of the context of this particular meeting, the innovation, how the bank looks at positioning itself to advance disruptive technologies and innovation, like I said, the strategic pillar, if you look at the long-term strategy, one of the core issues there is that the bank has set very bold, ambitious steps and expectations on itself to try and in the next 10 years, if I would say, try to do bolder steps to improve water security. Actually, the major objective is to increase, to help African countries to increase water security across the continent. And one of the things, of course, as you know, the bank is a convening agency or organization that convenes actually all the African member countries. And one of the advantages and one of the approaches it's doing in innovation is that it tries to upscale proven and tested technologies from across the country. So one of the things you'll find that if there's a technology like what has been being enumerated here since morning that has worked in a particular country and a particular context, then it is usually very easy because they're at the continental level, they have an overview about whatever is happening in most of the countries, then they would typically advocate and push that forward across the very different countries. So that is something that is very deliberate that they are doing. Maybe I'll just throw in the aspect of, something kept coming up about the gender. The bank is very deliberate about empowering, of course, the women, but also increasing youth participation and employment and making them more employable. So not just, okay, yes, driving the sector forward, but also trying to bring the demographic dividend of the youth, that is the bulk of the population in Africa, to make them part of this process of developing the water sector to attain security. And of course, the biggest problem that I said currently is that there is a lot, it has been predominantly public financed across the board. If you look at most of our national water sector kind of investments, they're mainly private, public. But the bank is trying, and if I give also another number, you would find that Africa, about just 1% of the financing that goes into infrastructure development for the water sector at a continental level is just, private finance is just 1% of the bulk of that money. So there is a push to try and push, to engage, to make the private sector participate more. Of course, by trying to de-risk some of the challenges and the different political regulatory kind of risks that the private sector usually causes them to desist from engaging in the water sector. And of course, this as a bank, it engages that through very many different kind of instruments. Part of them, of course, are things like guarantees, providing some kind of bank guarantees to de-risk some of this engagement by the private sector. But also, of course, the bank.
Yes, you're on 3 minutes now.
Okay. Then, of course, as a bank, it has a convening and it's an implementing agency of very many kind of financing instruments. You have climate and green funds, which are usually housed and currently, they help them to optimize how they deploy in different sectors, not just water. There is one that was recently launched called the Climate Action Window within the bank. And of course, that tries to push the climate agenda and the action, not just for water, but across the whole spectrum of infrastructure. Particularly within the water sector, there is what they call the African Water Facility that tries to advocate and promote bankable investment projects in infrastructure, but around water. And this one helps to prepare the upstream work, but also to mobilize the actual investment financing for the subsequent implementation of the infrastructure. Then recently, I think at the World Water Week in Stockholm in August, there was a new initiative that was launched called the African Urban Sanitation Investment Initiative, which has a corresponding fund that is currently trying to put a lot of emphasis and focus on sanitation. A lot has been said here about sanitation, but then it was realized that sanitation usually goes through the cracks. It goes missing somehow, as everyone is talking about water access, water supply. So there's been a new initiative that has been launched, and that is trying to mobilize energy and efforts towards trying to advocate for sanitation for all across the continent. So because of time, of course, I could answer any questions later. Thank you.
Yeah, I see you're like me. You love talking. So you have taken all your time on the panel because you've already moved in the second question that I wanted to ask. I think the bank is telling us that there's lots of opportunities. Green Climate Fund, the new facility that has been launched, and so forth and so forth. So I just want to hear from the utility side of things. What has been your difficulty in securing funding, especially when we're looking for funding to support tech and innovation uptake as a utility? So we'll take both the NWSC and TDE. Toko, you can go, whoever wants to go first. What has been your biggest challenge in accessing this, because they are there? We are hearing that there's lots and lots of funding available. Thank you.
Hello. Sylvia Linitwe is my name, has already been introduced. And going straight to the question, National Water is government owned, and the assets are owned by government, and the investment is a responsibility of the shareholder, who is government. So the challenge in that regard has been to convince government to access some of these monies available for investment, because we cannot, as a National Water, go out and, for example, take a loan and borrow from these banks. Most of these, of course, are monies that have to be borrowed, because we do not have that mandate. So at National Water, the challenge has been getting government to agree to take on some of these fundings that are out there, which come at a cost for purposes of investing in National Water. It requires a lot of getting so many approvals, a lot of bureaucracy along the way. Currently, I think in this country, if you are going to borrow as a government institution, the president must give an approval. And you can imagine how hard it may be to get the president to consent that you take a loan. So that, to me, I think is the biggest challenge we have, because we have a number of bankable projects that require funding, and which we know that if we got money, would be able to quickly break even and start, generating money out of them that would be enough to repay some of those funds borrowed. But the challenge is getting through the process and getting access to this money.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's hear from Mr. Yawanke Wake. From your perspective, what has been the biggest challenge in accessing funding as a utility?
Merci, Madame la modératrice. Je crois que le plus grand défi, je suis M. Gati Yawanke Wake, le directeur général de la Société togolaise des eaux. Et nous sommes en pleine réforme depuis 2015 et la Société togolaise des eaux est la société fermière qui est engagée à se transformer elle-même pour satisfaire les besoins des populations. Depuis lors, nous avons adopté un plan stratégique et aussi un plan de digitalisation de nos process. Et la question, c'est de mobiliser les financements pour pouvoir mettre en œuvre le plan stratégique et le plan de digitalisation qui inclut aujourd'hui les nouvelles technologies dont nous venons d'aborder, de parler, de voir comment tourner le dos aux pratiques cartésiennes d'antan pour faire face à l'innovation technologique. Et ces défis se posent à nous, étant donné que nous sommes une société de droit privé, mais aussi, sous couvert de l'État, nous devons négocier des financements avec des cautions souveraines de l'État. C'est là que la question se pose. Et aujourd'hui, il faut aller vers les financements innovants, d'où l'apport des institutions internationales telles que vient de le dire la BAN. Le rapport est tellement nécessaire, essentiel, afin de nous permettre de relever ces grands défis. Depuis ce matin, j'ai écouté beaucoup de panélistes qui ont abordé le sens des nouvelles technologies, que ce soit dans le domaine de l'eau ou dans le domaine de l'assainissement. Il le faut parce que avec les changements climatiques, il faut mobiliser beaucoup de financements et d'une façon globale, lorsque nous analysons, on constate que les financements pour les investissements dans le secteur de l'eau ont accusé beaucoup de retard. Et beaucoup d'États, je ne peux pas dire que c'est une négligence, mais je pourrais dire c'est comme on ne prenait pas trop l'eau comme un domaine dans lequel on devait financer, tout comme les infrastructures de transport, l'énergie, la communication. Mais aujourd'hui, on est rattrapé par ce retard et nous devons faire vraiment face. D'où nous plaidons auprès des institutions financières pour qu'ils essayent d'analyser leurs conditions de financement pour des financements innovants. Parce que les partenaires traditionnels, quand même pour garantir les remboursements des prêts qu'ils nous font, ont mis en place des mécanismes. Et aujourd'hui, ce sont parfois des mécanismes très contraignants pour accéder au financement. Or, les technologies évoluent très rapidement. C'est la question qui se pose aujourd'hui. Et que tous les partenaires techniques et financiers doivent s'unir pour repenser la forme de financement, surtout au niveau du secteur de l'eau, par rapport à tous les aléas que nous traversons. Le changement climatique qui nous impose un rythme de mobilisation des investissements, des financements pour les investissements, pour réaliser les ouvrages qui vont répondre aux défis de l'heure. Donc c'est une question vraiment fondamentale. Et chez nous, particulièrement au Togo, nous sommes en négociation avec l'État, particulièrement avec le ministère de l'économie et des finances, pour voir comment l'État peut lever des prêts concessionnels, des prêts à des taux concessionnels qui vont retrocéder à notre société pour le remboursement dans le temps, étant donné que la majorité des partenaires ne sont plus prêts à apporter, comment dirais-je, des appuis gracieux. Il faut toujours rémunérer. Les subventions ne sont plus, du moins les subventions, je voulais dire, ne sont plus accordées. Il faut toujours procéder à des emprunts pour pouvoir financer les investissements. Donc je peux dire, nous faisons face à ce défi et nous continuons pour pouvoir innover, moderniser nos structures pour la satisfaction du consommateur.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, there's a delayed effect because I was listening in English. Thank you very much for those two interjections. And maybe let's go to Dr. Kovacs. Both the utility perspective, they both mentioned bankable projects in their talk. And my question, and I've also, I think, mentioned in my opening remarks that there's a notion that the water sector projects are not bankable. The water sector struggles to leverage resources in addition to the high risk, low return, and all the other issues that we're having in the water sector. But what would you like to say or add with regards to the bankability of the projects that we see that are coming from the water sector? Are they bankable? Do we need anything to improve? Or what is the issue if the issue is not bankable projects? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So in general and overall, we can say that water projects cannot be and are not bankable because the United Nations has published a study that what we need or would need to invest into water infrastructure in the next coming 25 years, this would be 22,000 billions of US dollars. Compared to other infrastructure investment needs in urban areas, all the others altogether are less than what we would need to spend for water. And if we were discussing today the telecommunication, then we are paying the least for water overall everywhere in the world, US, Japan, Europe, etc. In all income categories, we are paying the least, something like 1 to maybe 3%, what we are paying, not spending time, because the poorest are spending the most time and paying the most. But what I want to say, and this is the example from today with telecommunication and communication to the public, what is more important, telecommunication opportunities or life to save the quality of our waters, groundwaters, water resources for our children? So basically, from the least paid services to finance the most expensive infrastructure, it's simply not possible. Just to bring down this 22,000 billion US dollars, which should be invested in water, let's divide it by the 6 billion people number, how many people will live in cities. And then we are coming to 3.5 thousand US dollar per capita that we would need to invest if we would go that traditional way. So, and here comes this innovative or disruptive solutions. And innovation. Just let me reflect once again. We are talking about peanuts that we are spending for innovation. If you take the other sorts of industries, be it high-tech or artificial intelligence, whatever, or pharmaceutical industry, there they spend 5, 10, or even more % of their income. From the water sector, what infrastructure we should renew or what we should invest into innovation, there we have basically nothing. But innovative, yes, but bankable solutions are there. If we do not want to make, because from the 3.2 thousand US dollar per capita infrastructure needs, 90% are the networks, pipelines, water supply, and wastewater collection. And this is calculated for a 100 liter per day consumption. But what we need to focus on, and where do we have, and where Do we have problems? Are the 3 liter what we really drink? And there is something again. No one in the world is calculating, no authority, no regulator, the bottled water consumption, how much we pay for it. We know that, or the price, this is not regulated. But, for example, in Hungary, however, 97% of the population has a safe tap water, but we are spending as much for this as for the total public water services. So this is crazy. And then, on the other hand, we have solutions, and these are proven solutions. Supply 3 liter per capita safe drinking water. Togo, Ghana, etc. You listen to the presentations at the conference, and you will know that why these are so important. And on the other hand, to at least prevent the spreading of this fecal sludge into the environment, into the surface waters. So there are 3 relatively high level, at least fulfilling the basic or maybe not so basic requirements from the regulators concerning effluent values, fecal sludge treatment facilities, all private investments, private investors taking buyer's credit loans, so no state guarantee behind anything, and feasible, bankable, those are bankable solutions. So large-scale network development, networks with total investment, those are not bankable. I think for the time, yeah, not even in Europe, not in the US. So in Europe, we have full transfer finance programs, not from tariffs, not from local taxes, from the European Commission. Financed forever, no loan, no return, no anything. The only expectation is that during the lifetime, you should put the depreciation of the invested assets into the tariffs. And this, if it is a pipeline, then 50 years, 2% of the total investment. And we are not even able to put this 2% without interest rates, once again, and not 20 years of loan finance period, because then it would be 5% plus the interest rates. So the 2% are not going into the tariffs, not even in Europe. So it is, we need to change the mindset of all players, politicians, public, banks, ourselves.
Thank you very much. I think the issue of changing the mindset being up throughout the day. Being an association of regulators, what mindsets do we have to change? What do you see your role as AfWASA and its members with regards to supporting and providing enabling environment in all these African countries for us to be able to embrace and to use tech and innovation in our utilities? What is the role that you guys can play? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Joanne from AfWASA Regulators Association, and I think I'll first touch on the aspect of financing before I answer your actual question. And I think for us as the Regulators Association and being able to represent regulators, I think it's key, and it has become very known that a well-regulated sector actually attracts finance. So if you have an investment plan, the sector is well coordinated, well structured, well organized, you will have the likes of AFDB actually willing to support and actually fund this sector because there's more transparency, there's more accountability. One of the things that actually as ESAWAS we are driving at is on aspects of project preparation. Of course, I think in the past we've realized that there is a very big disconnect between the regulators and the utilities. So we've decided now to bring them together, try to understand what the issues are at hand, how can we support, how can we have better, more structured dialogue. And one of the things that came out was the aspects of bankability, which has already been mentioned over and over again, aspects of creditworthiness, how can we try to ensure that we have more, that we have more utilities actually being more creditworthy. So I know the World Bank has, structures in place that are supporting some of those aspects. AFDB has similar, but then we are now coming in and saying, can we support on the aspects of project? That will now be probably the driver that helps in setting up these different utilities, the sector to actually attract and use finance adequately. But back to your question, what can the regulators do? I think for the regulators, I think for us, our primary and predominant role is actually on ensuring that we have forward-looking policies and regulatory frameworks, tools in place that can support and drive the sector. Talking about disruptive technology, now you think about how do you ensure that you have technologies that will support service quality, that will ensure that we have and at the same time also supporting aspects of affordability. This has come up quite a bit throughout the day. So there's something that regulators actually promote, something called, I will call them sandboxes. In Uganda, we have something called the Appropriate Technology Center. So when technologies are developed, they actually have to go through a period where they are tested, they are appreciated, the value is seen, and then they can be officially approved and then rolled out. So it's the regulator's role in that sense to be able to provide that oversight and ensure that what is being introduced actually meets the demand, meets the criteria for the environment, for the sector, for the people, because at the end of the day, our role as a regulator is actually to strike a balance between the government, between the consumers, and just strike that balance and ensure that everyone has there's mutual benefit for every single person within the sector. So yes, being able to support the development of forward-looking policies and regulatory frameworks, I think, is our paramount and most important role. And of course, when we look at things like incentives, looking at tariff adjustments that can promote technological adoption, especially for the utilities, I think that goes a long way in supporting that adoption for the long term.
Okay. Thank you very much. I thought I was going to do well with time, and I have failed. So what we're going to do now, we are on 31 minutes. What we're going to do now is, as you are giving your parting words, I want you to focus on your perspective. So it will be a utility, ESAWAS, the bank perspective with regards to what is that biggest mind shift, culture shocks that we need to go through for us to have win-win partnerships. Meaning us being able, as the water sector in the African continent, to be able to embrace, to uptake this technology and see them really making an impact on the ground. So as you're responding, you're responding from your perspective, what you really think is that biggest, just one biggest change that needs to happen for everything to fit into place. So we'll start from my left, Mr. Yawanke Wake. You will start first, and then just 1 minute in wrapping up. What is that biggest change that needs to happen from the perspective of a utility for yourself? And then we go up to the end. Then after that, we'll open the floor for Q&A session. Thank you, and over to you.
Ceci, je crois que nous pouvons, à l'analyse, mener encore beaucoup de réflexions par rapport aux différents changements qui s'opèrent. Comme je le disais dans ma première intervention, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, la question, elle est un peu universelle. Et que ce soit les acteurs qui sont des opérationnels, tout comme ceux-là qui doivent apporter la technologie ou les financements, doivent s'unir. Ici, ce n'est qu'une étape, si je vois bien, au niveau de l'Afrique. Mais il faut voir dans les autres parties du continent et voir même dans les autres continents ce qui est en train d'être fait. Parce que la solution à la question de l'eau et de l'assainissement, aujourd'hui, pour moi, doit être une question mondiale. Et nous sommes appelés à œuvrer d'une façon unanime à la recherche des solutions. Que ce soit les gouvernants, peut-être eux n'ont pas le temps de réfléchir, mais les scientifiques, les universitaires qui sont là doivent quand même œuvrer pour des propositions vraiment très adéquates, mais aussi comment unir leurs visions pour que cette solution soit une solution universelle. C'est aussi là la question que moi-même ici, je me pose. Donc ensemble, c'est que la réflexion doit être poursuivie pour la recherche des solutions innovantes pour les problèmes d'eau que nous connaissons. La solution, elle peut être parcellaire dans un pays, mais avec les changements climatiques qui s'imposent à tout le monde entier, nous devons chercher des solutions unanimes. Un penseur a dit, ou même jusqu'aujourd'hui, nous constatons, pour toutes les raisons de nous faire la guerre, évitons de nous faire la guerre de l'eau. Parce que c'est très délicat si nous allons nous faire la guerre de l'eau. Merci, madame.
Okay, thank you very much. You're talking about the global solutions that you should be looking at. Let's hear from Dr. Ali Nantwe, also from a utilities perspective. What would you say is that one change or mindset change, cultural change that we need to have to achieve what we're talking about here today?
Thank you, moderator. I think what utilities need to start doing maybe more differently is to be very innovative as far as funding is concerned and look internally more than externally, because we all agree that it's now becoming a big challenge accessing external funding. The requirements thereof are becoming very complicated. I think looking at the tariffing issues, performance improvement, adapting technology that can help deliver better results, quicker results, to me is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the banks. There is a request for collaborative effort, even when it comes to funding, as she has mentioned, that we shouldn't only be looking externally, but also internally. And we need innovative kind of financing. So from the bank side, what is that one shift that we need to make to be able to support the sector as we need the support?
Thank you. I hope I got your question well. Of course, the African Development Bank and many other multilateral development banks, they are at the forefront of innovating very many financing instruments. And of course, most of them are not developed or designed in isolation. They will always engage with their partners, but also their member countries. And that's why I highlighted some of the windows that are coming up within the bank. Some are existing windows, but they're just trying to fund them more. Because, of course, they realize that the need is there. The gaps the inequalities that we talked about are increasing. And then you have, of course, the complexities of the climate change and their different implications. So it's a very dynamic process of engaging the countries but also designing new instruments as they go. There are some other instruments I didn't want to go into: debt for resilience swaps, green bonds. There are so many that I can't, of course, enumerate here, but the bank is very, very intentional in about how it engages countries to actually find appropriate solutions. I can give a very quick last example.
No.
At the coffee break?
Yes, at the coffee break, definitely. Even tomorrow at dinner. Thank you very much for the African Development Bank for that. Let's take Dr. Kovacs. Quick one also as to what is that shift that needs to happen.
Basically two things. First of all, transparent cost reporting based on regulatory reports. And the regulators to be considered the long-term interests representatives of public. This was what African Development Bank was also calling in Kigali a year and a half ago, that don't follow the short-term politician opinions. Go and report. And based on this, and this would be also a message to the banks. If you don't believe me, please let's discuss. Forget the 3% of affordability limit, because this limitation is prohibiting to invest into the only affordable, only sustainable solution of water supply. I mean, we might develop the dry toilets, avoid urine, etc., etc. Let's do it. I'm for it. But the rest of what we use for our shower, for washing, etc., etc., we have to deliver it. 20, 30, 40 liters per day. Okay, let's not do the 100. But even those cannot be transported otherwise than pipe water. So I don't want to go into the transparent cost reporting. Regulators, banks forget the 3% of affordability limits, because yes, people can afford it, and they will afford if they will see what damages we are doing to our water resources.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And let's close it with AfWASA. You have the convening power of all the African. You told me that you're recently covering the whole continent, no longer East Africa. So you have the convening power to bring together these regulators in the continent. What is it that you're going to do different to ensure that you provide an enabling environment for the utilities to be able to really embrace this tech and innovation way of improving our services?
Yeah, thank you. And I think it just goes back to what I began by saying, that a well-regulated sector really does attract financing. So my parting words are that I think the regulators just need to take on their role by, really bring the sector together, being the coordinator that they're supposed to be, coordinate the sector well, bring on all the different parties, have better, improved sector reporting, and this will definitely drive sector financing in the long run. And in terms of innovation, of course, like somebody was saying earlier, we're in Africa, so let's actually adopt the different innovations out there incrementally, because some innovations will be brought on and they will actually impact the sector in a negative manner. So let's first build our infrastructure and ensure that we are ready to take on these infrastructures, these different technologies that are out there.
Okay. With that, I will just now take a pause, and I think we only have time for 2 burning questions to our panelists before we can then close the session. Please raise your hand. Okay, that's a burning one. There's one here from Mr. Usha. Just one. Guys, we're talking about monies. We're talking about making sure that we adopt these technologies. There's a second hand at the bank. So you will use the mics there. I don't know if you need to introduce yourself, Mr. Usha, before you pose your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's not really a question. It's more a comment, a short comment to see. let's say that, regulated sector or regulated utility is not the only thing that can bring the finance to the sector. I think we need to bring together regulators, finances, utilities in one room and show the finances what is the utility and what does the utility need to perform. I want to cite a short example. AfWASA was doing a big program related to non-revenue water reduction. We did it for 3 years, funded by USAID, and we brought together 21 utilities. And the 21 utilities were capacity built during 2 years on non-revenue reduction. At the end of this program, we had a Congress, and during the Congress, we did a roundtable with funders, finances, with all the 21 utilities, and we presented to the utilities, to the funders, the development program of each utility to bring down their non-revenue water. Finally, the 21 utilities and all the funders that were in the room, only one utility succeeded in having funding for non-revenue reduction. And that utility is the utility from Benin, and they had funding because AfDB had a program in the Benin country, and then they just pick a slot for the non-revenue water. As we know today that for the expert of the climate change, non-revenue water reduction is one of the best adaptation of water for going against climate change. And we think that definitely we need to bring regulators, utilities, and banks together in a room and really discuss about that. Otherwise, we are really not we won't be able to do anything related to the SDG 6, and probably we'll come to 2030 without any improvement. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that remark. Let's take just one question. There was a hand at the back. If you can just pose your question, please introduce yourself and where you're coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Pingi Gunene from eThekwini. Can you hear me? Okay. From eThekwini Municipality in South Africa. My question is to the banks. Once you've granted the grant to the organizations, do you have a monitoring tool to make sure that those grants are being utilized effectively to yield positive results? And the second question is, just for the interest's sake, what interest do you charge on your loans and the term? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have just those two questions, monitoring tools and the interest, and then we wrap it up. Thank you. Over to the banks. Yes, African Development Bank. You are the only bank here.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, grants are administered, and of course, there are monitoring tools that are developed even at the point of project design, and those are actually agreed between the partners. That is the Development Bank, African Development Bank, but also the utility, or in this case, the country. So those would be things that you report against in terms of how you utilize the grant. And grants and some kinds of loans can get suspended or cancelled if you're not performing according to the agreed terms. Yes, they can be realigned and readjusted at midterm review if you want to reorient your priority and it's agreed between the parties. So they're actually very strong results measurement frameworks that go into the project design, and those are agreed. Even at negotiation point, they are agreed and they have to be followed through, or else it gets suspended or actually cancelled in some cases. The interest rate per country, I don't want to go into the dynamics, but each country has a creditworthiness profile. There are countries we categorize as fragile, and those will attract a lot of grants and very low, if any kind of concessional loan, financing. So it really depends on the country profile. So there's nothing standard that Uganda will attract this. I mean that all the countries will attract this. It goes so much into the dialogue that has been built between the bank, for preparing that particular intervention or program. So that's when some of those are actually dictated. But then also, there are things like the debt headroom for that particular country. If a country is already in
the list, but I would like to just, on issues like this during the STCs, but also we have the Congress. Can we have a stream that talks about financing, for example? Then you'll have many sessions within the stream. That's a recommendation I would like to make. And then lastly, to say that I think everyone in this room, we are very in support of this innovative way of doing things, whether being a finance person, utility, research innovators. And I would like to just make a call to all of us to say, Simeon has mentioned that we have launched the hub. The hub, yes, was launched in Bali by WRC and AfWASA, but it will not work if you are not on board. So we all want to see Africa having a lot of innovative solutions that are relevant to us, that we have taken from elsewhere, adapted to our environment, but we really need to have innovation that works and that will make the change in our continent to ensure that people have access to water and sanitation. So please, as we're going to be communicating with you through AfWASA, do come on board, join us to make sure that we make this innovative way of doing things a reality for the African continent. And with that, I would like us to have a round of applause for our panelists, and thank you very much for your input. And then we'll ask the photographer to come and take us a picture. Thank you. I'm in all the pictures. I love this. If you can just stand quickly.
So during the picture is taken, would you like to see an IWA film with this bankability story? Just 3 minutes.
Let's do the picture, and as we are packing our bags and we watch the 3-minute thing. But the picture? So the picture, the wrap-up, and the video. Is that okay? I'll leave it to the main. Yes, thank you. Oh, MC, sorry. I'll leave it to you, MC. There's a request for the. Yes, thank you. I do my part. It's a picture, and I step down. Thank you very much.
Dr. Simeon wants to join? Please join. A well-wisher. The governor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Another round of applause to the panelists. Thank you very much for the wonderful insights you've given to us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are winding down towards the end of our day. It's been a long day and indeed a very fruitful one. Two things. I would like to welcome Madame Geraldine. Is the Director in charge of Public Relations, Cameroon Water, to come and give us just a few points, a few insights as she does the wrap-up. The main points will be tomorrow morning, but she's going to give us a teaser of what we have deliberated upon as we prepare for tomorrow. After that, please be informed that there's tea downstairs. Don't go away without having your tea or coffee. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Good afternoon. So we're going to have a bit of French before we close today. Bonsoir, bon après-midi. On va faire rapidement un petit rappel de ce que nous avons. DG Togo et Dr Kenfak, merci de m'écouter aussi. Ok, merci. Donc, on va juste faire un petit rappel. La synthèse de nos travaux de cette journée sera faite de manière un peu plus approfondie demain matin. On va commencer par ça. Mais avant de se séparer, on voulait quand même reparcourir un peu la journée que nous avons passée ensemble. Simplement pour rappeler que nous sommes donc ici à Kampala pour la 94e assise du Conseil stratégique et technologique de l'Association africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement. Alors, nous avons eu ce matin une première session qui était la cérémonie d'ouverture avec, en commençant par rendre hommage à qui de droit, l'hymne ougandais et une prière. Nous avons eu 4 discours. Un discours du DEX qui a campé le décor, qui nous a rappelé la pertinence du thème qui nous a réunis ici et qui a notamment adressé ses remerciements au gouvernement de l'Ouganda qui nous accueille et à la National Water, évidemment. Nous avons également eu un discours du président de l'Association africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement, le directeur général de la National Water. Je résume, hein. Il a dit beaucoup de bonnes choses. Il est revenu sur les réalisations de l'Association africaine de l'eau depuis notamment la période du Covid, mais surtout, il a invité les participants à ne pas manquer le prochain congrès de l'association qui va se tenir en février 2025 ici. Il a dit, ceux qui vont le manquer, tant pis pour eux, ils auront perdu. Donc, rendez-vous ici en février 2025. On a eu également le discours de... Qu'est-ce que j'ai oublié? Du représentant du ministre, non, du président du conseil d'administration de la National Water, également, qui a parlé un peu des enjeux de l'heure hein, autour du thème qui nous réunit évidemment. Et puis, une présentation du secteur de l'eau en Ouganda, faite par le représentant du ministre d'État chargé de l'eau et de l'environnement. Après cela, on a eu un mot de remerciement de Sylvain Hucher, l'ancien DEX. Et nous avons ensuite embrayé sur la session 2 qui portait sur les technologies de rupture et les innovations dans le secteur eau et assainissement, avec un partage d'expériences et de points de vue sur la question animée par les sociétés d'eau et d'assainissement membres de notre association. La troisième session était consacrée à la recherche comme catalyseur de technologies et d'innovation de rupture pour atteindre l'ODD 6, avec une leçon inaugurale de Jay, de la Water Research Commission. Et là encore, on a pu entendre d'éminents docteurs, professeurs de l'Éthiopie, de l'Ouganda, de l'Université de Makerere, Dr Kenfak, sur le lancement du Hub sur les innovations, avec une signature du MOU entre l'association et la Water Research Commission. On en apprendra plus certainement au cours des jours qui vont venir. La quatrième session était consacrée à la gouvernance et le financement des technologies et des innovations, avec un appel notamment pour que, au cours du prochain congrès, les questions de financement innovant soient au cœur de ce track-là qui existe déjà dans le programme du congrès. On s'est rendu compte qu'il faut un peu plus de temps pour échanger sur la question compte tenu des défis, des challenges et des opportunités que les sociétés d'eau peuvent engranger autour de cette question-là. Donc, ce qu'on peut retenir, c'est qu'on a eu ce matin un appel à ne pas le faire conduire les affaires comme d'habitude, no more business as usual. Pas seulement, moi j'ai dit, j'ajoute, hein, pas seulement réinventer les toilettes, mais nous réinventer nous-mêmes dans la façon de conduire nos activités, opérations, en saisissant toutes les opportunités qu'offre la technologie et la recherche d'innovation. Ne pas oublier de mettre au centre de ces changements de façon de faire la collaboration, les partenariats, la coopération sud-sud, la recherche de solutions et de financements innovants, en prenant en compte des aspects genre, jeunes et bien d'autres. Donc voilà le résumé que je pouvais vous faire. Demain matin, vous aurez la synthèse et je vous remercie.
Bon, merci beaucoup, Madame. Thank you very much, Madame Geraldine, for that brief wrap-up. And without any further ado, I would like to officially wish you a nice evening. And as you go down to the ground floor to have your coffee. Thank you very much for your patience. À bientôt. Admo. Merci beaucoup.